let's start the new year with a bang. Rip and tear. I'm slowly going backwards in Raven Software's catalog with the goal of covering the game that most interests me. I'm not entirely sure where I will stop, probably around Take No Prisoners if I can get my hands on a copy. With that thing out of the way, let's talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'm playing the Uncaged edition on PC. If you like what you see, look for that edition. The difference is gore and blood. It's something so small but makes a big difference. It feels appropriate for a Wolverine game. There are a couple more things I have to discuss before diving into the game. There are very few video options in game. It's bare bones. You have to dive into some INI files to turn on AA, better textures, etc. You can tell that the consoles were the priority, at least in this regard. I'll leave in the description a link to PC Gaming Wiki for all those tweaks with one remark. I found all those options in this file. Even with all turned on, the difference is not so subtle. Doesn't look that bad, but it's uneven. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes bad, and in couple of cases there are some really blurry textures. I can't tell if the game didn't load them properly or the dev just left them. Also, I'm probably one of the few people that don't hate the movie. It's entertaining to watch, it's just okay. Too many cliches, and after seeing the two Deadpool movies, I finally understand why people hate what they did with Wade Wilson. Definitely not cool. The story loosely follows the plot of the movie. There will be spoilers, but if you watched it, it's almost the same, or in other words, nothing special. There is a lot of deviations from the movie, but some key plot points are the same. The introduction cutscene shows a green, grey and bleak future where Wolverine is hunted by some soldiers, but he managed to get rid of them. Then he starts reminiscing about the past, not that he remembers much. The plot constantly jumps back and forward between two time periods. The first is when Logan was a member of Team X. The game opens somewhere in Africa. Wikipedia tells me it's Angola, but the game doesn't explicitly say it. Whatever, Logan is part of General Stryker's Team X, Black Ops mercenaries, all mutants. Team consists, beside Logan, from Wade Wilson aka Deadpool, Victor Creed, Sabretooth, Castro, John Wraith, and North. This is basically the tutorial level. Stryker is looking for something in Africa and Team X is doing his dirty work. By the end of the game, the general and the team take hostage people from an African village. It's revealed that the team is Meteorite, probably adamantium. Stryker wants from Logan to kill an innocent man, but he lets him go. Out of nowhere, Wade Wilson shoots him. Logan punches him, but Creed subdues Wolverine and knocks him out. After that, it cuts 3 years later. Team X is disbanded and Logan moves to somewhere in Canada. Now with a girlfriend, Kyla Silverfox, they walk under the bright moon to a local bar. Upon reaching there, Logan says that they are in danger. Inside is Victor. They get into a fight, wrecking the whole place up. In the end, Victor comes victorious, breaks Wolverine's bone claws, knocks him out and kills his girlfriend. Off-screen. When Logan wakes up, Stryker shows up and tells him that Creed is killing his ex-comrades and he will give him the tool to kill Creed. You know what that means? Adamantium claws.
Suffer more pain than any other man could endure. Your bones will be coated in adamantium. When we're done, you'll be able to withstand anything, even Creed. Where did you fight him? Your spark is more important to me than his life.
Don't even think about
What the hell?
Stand down, Captain.
My brother, my responsibility.
At my command.
The operation was a success, but he can't be trusted. We have his DNA for Weapon 11. Terminate him.
If you ever watch the movie, read the comics, or play the game, you know that General Stryker betrays Wolverine. From here you escape and go after him. By the end, the General reveals that he wants Logan's DNA to create the ultimate mutant, Weapon 11. It combines the power of many mutants. And the girlfriend is not dead at all. This part is kinda stupid. The story is not that good, it's just between the two timelines. Sections like the one in Africa are extended to a couple of hours, while in the movie is 10ish minutes. And that's the main issue, the game is too long for its own good. I clocked in 9 hours and 18 minutes, but it felt a lot longer. It will feel much more fun if you trim down at least 3 hours of the gameplay time. It will become much more focused and tighter experience, especially in the plot department, because it's very thin. Nothing too exciting happens story-wise. The movie didn't have interesting plot either, and the dev had the chance to correct that, but they missed it. The game is stretched in almost every single aspect. Not everything is bad though. The plot puts you against enemies and visit places you don't see in the movie. Now with that out of the way, let's steer some enemies. In terms of gameplay, it's similar to something like Devil May Cry, but if you are going in with the mindset that this will have the same deep combat, you are up for disappointment. I think it's closer to the Matrix Path of Neo, which I reviewed in 2019. Right from the start you have set of combos available to you, and for the most part that's it. With time you will unlock some additional. You have light, heavy attack, grab, dodge, block and lunge right from the start. The lunge is the one thing I never got tired of. It's almost always how I enter a battle. It feels and looks spectacular, especially when you jump from a long distance. And you can continue with a sweet looking stab or a throw. Some enemies can interrupt the lunge. There isn't much to say about the combat. You hack and slash your way through the 9-hour campaign. Since there isn't more combos or different weapons, this would be silly, or different styles, the game becomes repetitive. This comes back again to the length of the game. Those 10-ish combos can get you so far, then it becomes less and less exciting. With this combat it needs to be shorter. When the game starts throwing multiple different enemies and you have to prioritize, then it becomes a bit more fun and picks up steam. Not always bad of course, there is a bit more to the combat. With time you unlock special moves or fury attacks. Clothespin, useful in the beginning, but I found it less in the latter half of the game because of the damage output, not enough. Berserk, Wolverine does more damage and changes combos look. Claw Drill does a serious damage to one target. And Claw Cyclone, it does a bit more damage than the Clothespin. You can activate it when you have enough rage. It's shown in the upper left corner beneath the health bar. The way to restore is by killing enemies or break parts of the environment and collect the rage orb they leave. Different enemies give different amount I think. I'm not sure if it depends on the kill, the amount of orbs you'll get. Often the levels are designed in such a way to give you an opportunity for a faster kill using the environment. Throw someone from a high place or into a spike on a statue, broken branch or part of a pillar on the ground. Some are quite amusing like a cement mixer. This is a nice addition and gives you a chance to get rid of some of the tougher or annoying enemies. Unfortunately you can't stack them, this will be hilarious and amazing at the same time. Even with the limited combat, the game can still be fun and satisfying, but not for too long. Part of why the gameplay feels good is the sounds. When you make an enemy airborne, punch him, it has this bass feel to it. Slashing sounds often more metallic than it should be, but still feels great cutting enemies. And when enemies on the ground, you can stand on top of him and stab him, and with every hit Wolverine becomes faster and faster, the screen is shaking, it's just brutal. Actually, when someone is near death, you can make a finishing move, cut limbs or a head, that sort of stuff, and this is accompanied with a sweet 360 degrees camera shot. When you have more options in combat, then it becomes more fun. Start with a lunge. throw the enemy into something sharp, chain combos, activate fury attacks. You rip through enemies like hot knife through butter. For the lack of better words, you feel like the Wolverine. Also, blocking is really viable. At first I didn't use it much, but when the game starts throwing tons of enemies, it's essential for survival, and if you do it at the last moment, you can counter-attack. For each enemy there is a unique animation, and depending on the state of the enemy, there can be additional one. Here's a small detail I love. When you successfully block, it doesn't automatically counter, you have to press a button to do it. For me, this means the game is not on rails. You have to work for that move. This is also true for some of the other moves. Also, you can deflect projectiles with the right timing, even rockets. But until reaching the point where you can do all this cool stuff, I can see people giving up, and even at that point, repetition kicks in. There are 3 collectibles in the game, all worth seeking. Dog tags are found on dead bodies and grants additional experience. Wolverine figurines unlock costumes to wear in-game, but first you have to fight yourself in that costume and win. Kind of fun, but boils down to block and counter for faster fight. And the last is mutagens. They are passive bonuses that grants Wolverine more health, rage, experience, etc. Typical stuff. The more you found from the same mutagen, better the bonus. You can equip maximum of 3. I did not found the need to change them constantly, stuck with the same through the whole game. More health, damage, experience. Why would I want to change them? Killing enemies grants you experience, but the leveling system feels static. What I mean is, it doesn't feel earned. It's like you reach a certain point in the game and there you go, you level up. And no, it's not that way. With each level you receive upgrade points, which you can put in health, rage, claw, and the duration and damage of fury attacks. They are all self-explanatory, as you can imagine, but when you upgrade claw, it unlocks the additional combos I talked about. That's all I have to say about the upgrade system. It's a simple one, but makes you feel more powerful by the end, especially when you encounter regular human enemies in the latter half of the game. You shred them like piece of paper. Speaking of enemies, they are diverse enough. Humans, mutants, robots, in different variation. Some are invisible and able to stop you lunging with a shotgun shot, and you have to use your feral sense to see him. Others can avoid some of your attacks and so on. They are reused of course, but some in the latter half of the game have additional abilities. For example, the enemy with the machete from Africa's levels by the end of the game starts splitting into 3 and each one can do it too. Now you can interrupt this by hitting them while he's doing it. However, some are quite annoying, like the blue teleporting one. It's hard to do consistent damage, it takes too long to deal with it, so I try to impale it as quickly as possible. The worst offender is the constant reusing of the golem or whatever this monster is. The fight doesn't change at all, even slightly through the whole game. You face him in Africa, but in present day there is slightly different variation. Every time I saw these enemies, I just roll my eyes. You basically wait for either of them to hit the ground, jump on their back, stop as much as you can, and jump out before he grabs you. Another complaint I have is with the levels, more specifically in Africa. They are boring and kinda look the same, jungle and ruins. Present they are better, but often you are going through some high-tech facility. I probably wouldn't be bothered that much if the game was shorter. There are some outdoor areas which at least offer some variety. As I said, you're going through some facility, but one of those is quite interesting. It's massive. You go there to free one of your ex-military buddies from Team X. There you introduce to robot enemies. The spider looking are quite tough. After the jungle levels, it's a breath of fresh air, and there are light puzzles that are fun to solve. You can tell there is something big going on here just by the size of the facility, and then this happens. Yeah!
Welcome, Dr. Trask. Access granted.
Door's unlocked. Darling, what am I looking at?
Let me patch into security cameras and find out. It's hard to tell. Let me check out the database. Oh my god. They did it. They built it.
What did they build?
A weapon designed to detect and terminate mutants. This is the Mark I Sentinel.
It's big. I'll give them that.
Freaking Sentinel. You know what this means? Wolverine is gonna fight a Sentinel. You get on top of the facility on a giant arena. Also regular soldiers are shooting you, but you don't need to pay close attention to them. The fight isn't something mind-blowing, it isn't something too difficult. As a matter of fact, the game is on the easy side and it has some similarities with the Golem, but the Sentinel has more attacks and deals much more damage. The fight boils down to him smashing with the hand you slash. Do that for all limbs. There are panels on the floor. If the Sentinel hits it, it gets electrocuted and he stays immobilized for a longer period of time, which gives you more time to do more damage. Do that for all limbs. After you take down half of the health, he tries to escape, but Wolverine is after him. It ends in a spectacular finale.
Should have had him crash closer to town.
The rest of the bosses are pretty decent. The highlight is the fights with Sabretooth and Weapon 11. They can put a fight and do some damage. The worst is Gambit. You fight him 3 times in his level and he's just boring. Deflate his projectiles, slash him a couple of times, move back. On top of that, his voice actor is terrible at doing a French accent. As a whole, the sound design is good. Music is alright, nothing to write home about. In the jungle levels, percussions are heard, accompanied with some guitars for more visceral feel. Present day levels are more techno tracks mixed with orchestral tunes and guitars again. Those tracks has faster tempo. I don't remember a single track, but they are a nice complement to the gameplay. I mentioned Gambit sounds terrible, but the rest of the cast is good. Hugh Jackman and Liv Schreiber are reprising their roles and they do an outstanding job. General Stryker sounds a bit cartoonish, but I'll take it just as long as I don't have to listen to Gambit. The rest of the cast is alright for the screen time they have. Couldn't find anything interesting to talk about the development of the game, but I wonder if my complaints about the combat levels etc. are due to developing many games at one time. In 2006, Raven Software released Marvel Ultimate Alliance and their next game won't come out until 2009. That year and 2010 was busy time for them. In May 1st, 2009, X-Men Origins Wolverine is released. August 18, 2009, Wolfenstein comes out, and on 25th June 2010, Singularity was on the shelves. Actually, this one had a troubled development. I wonder if pressure from Activision or maybe ambition, Raven Software spread themselves too thin. Whatever the case, they managed somehow to pull out pretty good games, not without flaws. And this is a good game, but it could be much more. There is some missed potential, especially when it comes to combat. There isn't enough moves and abilities for the length of the game to keep your interest through the whole time. This doesn't mean it's not fun. It deviates a lot from the source material, but I don't see it as a bad thing. Ripping through enemies was fun, albeit repetitive and shallow in the beginning. If you are into this type of game, it's worth playing and it's released on so many systems, even on the PS2, but I would suggest going for the PS3 or Xbox 360 and the Uncaged edition. They are cheaper than the PC, but if you're willing to spend more cash, PC version runs smoothly, but you have to deal with all the nonsense setting it up. In terms of game based on movies, it's one of the better. One last thing, I think Raven Software left an open door for a sequel with the ending cinematic. As I said, the game starts with very grey and bleak look into the future. Turns out Logan didn't stop the production of the Sentinels and they destroyed everything. All my issues could be fixed if there was a sequel, but alas, it wasn't meant to be.
That doesn't mean giving up. This world may be broken, but I've got just the tools to fix it.